Well, let's switch gears a little bit here now,
Cool.
and let's do our 2022 prediction on the corporate side of the Walt Disney Company. Okay,
Oof.
so when I say corporate side, I'm talking like, you know, like this whole Susan Arnold, chairman of the board thing,
Mhm.
Bob Chapek, CEO, things like that. That's kind of like the corporate side of the Walt Disney Company. Dre, I'm going to start with you this time. What is your prediction for the corporate side of Disney in 2022?
Well, it's fascinating. I think, honestly, I think Bob Chapek makes it right, and I think the stock does steadily improve as some of these hits come out. That goes into our theater segment or our
Yeah,
studio segment, I should say. But as some of the hits come out, as Disney Plus does grow in subscriber count, I do think the stock does increase. How much? I don't think it falls. I'll say that I don't think it falls.
okay.
How much it goes up, I don't know. We'll see. But the Susan Arnold thing was a really interesting thing. We didn't really get a chance to talk about it when it actually happened, but as far as what I'm hearing, the company feels, the board feels that the CEO role, because of how expansive this company is right now, they feel it's a really kind of a two-person job now. That
Yeah.
it's gotten that big, and it's interesting. OG, you brought up the fact that because we had. Yeah, there were some Chapek detractors who were saying, "Wow, they didn't choose him to be chairman of the board." That's pretty interesting. But I think it was you who brought up the fact that Bob Iger didn't initially get that role either.
Right.
And when it comes to Susan Arnold, it's a very interesting thing because Susan Arnold hasn't always been the pro Iger person that or somebody that hasn't been enamored with Iger in the same way that other board members have, or this kind of belief that we have of the board when it comes to its relationship with Iger. So it's a really fascinating thing. I don't know how much corporate development we'll have, but as far as the corporate side goes, I think Chapek will be somewhat successful throughout 2022 in at least getting the stock price up and getting things kind of settled down here as we get out of the Bob Iger era officially.
Yeah, and actually, great minds think alike, Dre, because that was actually my same prediction.
Oh,
That
okay.
2022 Bob Chapek stays. Here's the thing with Bob Chapek, and I think even Bob Iger kind of mentioned this. Bob Chapek is a highly adaptable executive.
Yes.
And I think even Chapek himself says he focuses a lot. We always joke about it, but like he focuses a lot on like data, consumer data. So what he'll do is he'll take data, the numbers, and then he'll adapt his approach based on that. He'll meet consumers where they are, I think is what he said.
Yes.
And because of that, I think he'll survive, because what he'll do is he'll take a situation like the ScarJo situation, right? The lawsuit. And he'll adjust his approach based on what happened there. So
Yeah.
it's very unlikely now, in my opinion, that you're going to see a repeat of something like that. I think that he looked at the data, so to speak, and he'll adjust appropriately to make sure that doesn't happen again. And I think that because of this approach, this adaptability that Chapek has, that's why he's been so successful at Disney the last 30 years and rising, climbing his way to the top, because
Right.
he's not, he'll fall, he'll fail, but he learns from it. And he takes the data and he adjusts the approach. And because of that, I think he will stay. I don't think he's going to get fired in 2022. And like you said, a lot of the stuff coming out this year is going to benefit him. Like, I know there was kind of like a stalling out in regards to the Disney Plus subscriber numbers, but like, we got the Book of Boba Fett, which we just did our review on the first 2 episodes. A great show. I'm sure they're getting a boost from that. Kenobi, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
They're going to get a fucking shit ton of subscribers on that, because that's what everyone's waiting for.
Yes.
There's a lot of great content coming on D Plus that's really going to bolster those numbers. That's going to help Chapek. It's the Disney Plus show, at least for Wall Street. It's the Disney Plus show. So yeah, he
Absolutely.
stays. I don't think they're gonna fire him. But like you mentioned, Ray, too, it's a good thing that Susan Arnold is there to sort of check his power.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing. I think Disney operates best when it has that kind of push and pull where they have somebody to answer to. It's not, look, as much as I like Bob Iger and he's made mistakes, but I do like him. I respect him. He had too much power when he was a CEO and chairman of the board. That he should have never have gotten those roles.
Yeah.
Together. Yeah, it was too much, and it's good that Chapek doesn't have that kind of power. He has to watch his back because Susan Arnold's right there. She can call a board meeting and it can be bad news bears for Mr. Chapek. But,
That's true. That's the nice counterbalance.
It's a good counter. It's a good checks and balances. It is, it's like politics, you don't want one party rule, you don't want one party with the presidency and then the House and Senate. You want to have a little bit of checks and balances, and I think it's good for Walt Disney Company to have that. What do you think, George, in regards to Chapek staying or going, if you think he's going to go?
Well, here's the thing. In the very beginning, I mean, even before we discussed having like the 2022 predictions, I literally thought that he was going to be on his way out in 2022, to be honest with you. And I had talked about it a little bit, that I felt that once the Star Cruiser comes into fruition and it opens to the big disaster that it's going to be, there's no prediction about that. I just know it for a fact that I felt that was going to be a nail in the coffin for him, because that was his baby. That was his head of. Now, as far as, because it shouldn't just rely on one person, but I think as far as with the executive board goes, they will look at it as, okay, here's our opportunity to get him out. However, of what we were just discussing, on top of with the Star Cruiser and with the cruise line industry, they're still going to need someone to kind of ride those waves a little bit, no pun intended, to get us out of that situation. Because, I really do feel like at some point the cruise line industry is going to take a hit before it gets back up on its feet, especially with the, as what OG puts it, the Decepticon variant, so it's, so we need a numbers guy. We need someone to still kind of, and I hate to put it in this way, but it's almost like the board is kind of using Chapek just to kind of, again, flow through the motions, just to get us through it. And I think once we get out of it, one little false move, again, as you said, with Arnold being part of the board, kind of like check him in, and it's like, hey, you messed this up, you do this, you do that, your neck is on the line here. So I think it's a good balance.
They are using his talents where, he's most effective, right? I mean, he is very adaptable, as OG said. And he's very consumer driven. I mean, he had to be when he was part of consumer products. I mean, if he puts something out, it doesn't sell. You're looking at tangible product that you don't even know what to do with at this point. So you kind of have to be in line with the customer sentiment mentality.
And he actually had a very genius way when he was running consumer products, where he did with the vault, with the sort of like put the DVDs back in the vault. You bring it out for so long. I mean, every time that it said, okay, this is the date it's going to come out, and then this is the date it's going back in, people would flood the stores. Even before social media, but people went into those stores and hurry up, we got to grab the Little Mermaid special edition, we got to grab Beauty and the Beast special edition before it gets put in the vault. It boosted those numbers up, because if you were to just say, okay, Beauty and the Beast is being released on DVD, okay, well, this is a special platinum edition 2-disc DVD with tons of bonus features, and it's going to go in the vault on October 18th. Get it before it goes, and it's the DVD getting put in the vault, and the vault shutting and it closing, and it's like, that was great publicity for that, because it got the DVD numbers up, and that was his idea.
Well, and it actually plays to what Dre calls the indie effect. The indie effect, which is that false sense of scarcity to ramp up the demand. And he like you said, George, Chapek like spearheaded that with the video sales, with the vault. Yeah. But you're seeing it now in the parks.
We are.
For better or worse, you're seeing that sense of like, get it now, you might miss out kind of thing. So it's definitely bleeding into other areas of the company now that he's a CEO. So it's very, very interesting.
I want to bring up this tweet here. Maybe I can do it really fast.
Sure.
It's interesting you say this. Let's see. Here we go. And racers only running 3 or 4 stations on a Saturday. But hey, pay $15 and you can ride right now. We're seeing this kind of artificial scarcity take place at some of the theme park operations, where you're now in this mentality where the kind of paradigm has changed. No longer is efficiency, king, so to speak. Now there's incentivization for Disney to be maybe inefficient and maybe drive those Genie Plus sales. So we're starting to see it, and it's what I predicted. It's, I was like, this is, now that you have this kind of reversal of this incentivization structure when it comes to efficiency, we might start seeing that. What did we see? We saw them getting rid of the standby options. Even though those were practices that allowed for efficiency to be at its peak, right? Well, now with not standby, but single rider options, I should say, we saw single rider options get pulled, and that also plays into the Genie Plus sales and stuff like that. So it's discouraging. It is, but we are seeing these changes, and that's why I think Chapek is constructing a better mousetrap here, and I think that's why the parks will continue to grow, at least profit wise, for 2022, and increase that stock price.
And even with Epcot right now, they had just placed Remy's Ratatouille Adventure out of the the virtual queue, and put it as a standby line. Why? Because now with a standby line, you now have the option to say, well, you could wait in a 5-hour standby line, or you could pay, that lightning lane, of like $20, $25, and you can get right on the ride.
Yeah, it's wild. It's definitely wild. Now, George, I believe. Okay, so me and Dre basically have the same prediction for corporate. Chapek stays. He's not going anywhere. What is your prediction for corporate end of it?
Actually, mine was mentioned in our previous recording for Orange Nerd when we were doing the review of the Book of Boba Fett. Okay. I feel from the release of the Book of Boba Fett, coming off of the high of The Mandalorian, I feel that Filoni and Favreau are going to take as a dual partnership to take over Kennedy's place. And on top of that, kind of go in cahoots with WDI, sort of like how John Lasseter did as creative chief executive with Walt Disney Imagineering, to kind of flush out the issues that are going on within the parks with utilizing the Star Wars franchise.
Interesting.
That's quite a prediction right there.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Okay, now first of all, yeah, if Filoni and Favreau took over Star Wars, Lucasfilm, that would be phenomenal. I have not hidden that fact that I support that 100%. But this whole notion that you were bringing up about how kind of having a Lasseter type role of like even being in like kind of like affecting the parks, very interesting. What do you think, Dre, about that? That
is a pretty interesting thing. But hey, you know what? If I guess we're calling this F and F, right? Filoni and Favreau. If they're placed into this role, so to speak, I could definitely see that happening in a way that should have probably happened to a larger extent with Kennedy and the parks themselves. I mean, what was unfortunate was, we saw Kevin Feige there at the opening of Avengers Campus, right? But we didn't really see Kathleen Kennedy at either the openings of Galaxy's Edge at Walt Disney World or Disneyland. If that relationship could get maybe a little bit closer, where they could kind of provide some maybe ways to move forward when it comes to Galaxy's Edge, that'd be phenomenal. That'd be really, really good.
I really should kind of like change up my words. I think it won't like take into full effect where it's like, okay, Kennedy is completely out and FNF is in like right at the moment. But I feel that in 2022, that's going to be the starting process.
Yeah. Okay. I think her power is already being pulled back a little bit. I can already see her influence kind of
waning,
losing its effect, so to speak. Yeah. honestly, I think for her, it's gonna be how well Indy 5 does. And we already know that's got some issues attached to it, and it got postponed again. So, that's her realm of influence right now, and it's really going to be predicated on that. Honestly, there is some rumors out there that maybe she is just a figurehead right now. You know, F and F is in the driver's seat, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and you got to think of it this way too, like we've mentioned many times here in this video and many times in videos in the past. Chapek is a data-driven guy, and when you have someone who's like that, data-driven doesn't always mean numbers necessarily. It sometimes means public perception, what the majority of people are feeling and what have you. And I'm sure he looks at Star Wars and says, Kennedy's a problem. And the numbers show that, or public perception shows that Favreau and Filoni are the more popular choice. They make product that is more well received.
Yes.
And someone like Chapek's going to take notice of that. So, now, hey, Daddy Iger's gone. He's gone now. He's no longer with Disney. So, if he was the one kind of keeping Kennedy there, well, he's out now. So it's up to Chapek, and Chapes might say, "Hey, look, she's out." These two guys provide stuff that the general public wants, and they welcome it, and they like it more than what she did, and so we'll see.
Well, think of it in your context, OG, from your perspective, in your background right now. I don't see much sequel trilogy back there.
Right.
But I see little Grogu right there, right? Do we not think? I mean, even Bob Chapek himself brought up the fact that Mandalorian merch did move.
Oh, yeah.
I think he has a very keen insight and knows exactly what Favreau and Filoni bring to the table when it comes to all of this going forward. So I think you're right.
I mean, even with certain, and again, social media, is Big Brother. We were talking about this the other day when people are going to the parks for that Instagram photo, for that, that background, and could you imagine the line waiting to get a selfie with Grogu, with Baby Yoda?
I'm surprised they haven't done it yet because it's just a natural fit.
Oh my God, the photo pass money on that would be. Oh, they could fund a third park based on that photo pass. I mean,
you're probably right about that. Yeah, they would have to take it off as an included feature when it comes to the Disneyland Resort version of Genie Plus. I mean, it's like, no, you gotta pay extra for it because it would be in such high demand.
But it's like there's a lightning lane for that. But of course, if you want to bypass that line, you pay like $250. We'll get you right into the front of the line.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, no, that it would be massive, and I'm surprised. Like you said, Dre, I'm very surprised they haven't capitalized on that. But hey, Iger's gone, and there's a new sheriff in town. You might start seeing some of that. So we'll see.
I think so, and I think Lucasfilm and everybody else will be better off for it.